Hi, I'm Jill from KiteCo and welcome to my channel. Today we are sewing up this cutie. This is Bartolo from Shamballa Patterns. Guys, it is such a quick, easy make. It is a scrap buster, and because it is so easy and quick to make, I'm going to be batch sewing 6 today. So I'm going to go through and show you my process, but I will show you each step of how to make one as well, because it's great for gifts and it's going to be a great seller, I'm sure, for our markets. Before I start, why don't you just hit the little button down the bottom, which is where you subscribe. You don't need to leave the video. You can just smash the little button down there. And while you're doing that, I'll set up to sew. So I'm going to go through all the pieces that are needed. I've got my fin and a backing piece. I've got my tail. Now I have done this a little bit different in the fact that my vinyl is so very thin. I haven't got any foam or anything to use for my tail. So I have put that through a very thin D-ring, or a small D-ring, and I'm going to glue those together and then sew around the edge. I have put my eye on my head. That's all I have done with a rivet. I have got my base to match my head. I've got my front and my back. Both of those have got fine fleece outside of the seam allowance. Then I have got my lining, which I'm using waterproof canvas. I've only got white. And I've got a piece that I've cut for my binding. I don't normally use binding of waterproof canvas, but I'm going to for this one. So I have got 6 of these set made up, and I'm going to sew through them. Some I have done some prep work to, and this one I haven't, so I can show you the steps right from the start. I've also got my zips at the length required. Zipper pulls I have got with just the little ring, because we're going to put our tail through the ring. So let's put those aside for now, and we will prepare all our fins. So what you can do is transfer your lines for the fin sewing detail from the pattern. So what the pattern has us do is sew the lines. So I'm just going to sew 3 lines on here, and there is definite patterns that we can follow in the pattern. I'm just going to do it from what I'd like to do. Now in the pattern she has you pull it through to the back. I'm going to just go straight back over my line. Like that. So my stitching is definitely quite solid. So normally we pull our tails through. As you can see, I have sewn mine back through. Then we glue around the edge. Now I'm using a Helmar fabric glue, which I absolutely love for this kind of thing. And I'm going to get it right to the very edge. So put it wrong sides together with our bit of backing that we've cut, and give that a really good press. So then you don't see any stitch lines on the back. So the other ones I have done, I have glued these together, so you're going to see stitching on the back of mine as well. And then we're going to trim right on the very outline of our fin, like that. So you can sew around the outside if you want to. I might do that just to make sure it's all set in place. So that is our fin. So I shall go through and do all the others. Now there is suggested fin lines in the pattern. So there's my 6 fins. Now I'm going to prepare my tail just so that the glue can dry. Just going to get a piece of the lining on the back of it just to glue it in. Now in the pattern you are meant to do this later on, but I want this glue to dry. So if you're doing it this way, make sure everything lines up perfectly. I've cut this with my scan and cut, which is great because they line up just how they're meant to. I put quite a bit of pressure on that just to hold it together. So the others I have actually clear coated around the edge. So what I'm going to do on mine, just to match, is do some, like the fin lines. Now again, this is not in the pattern, so that is my little fin. I shall burn all my edges and I will edge coat that one later. So let's keep our fins and put our tails to one side. I'm going to maybe just sew a couple of little bits on these. I'll melt all these ends later. So you can decorate your fins and your tails however you want. Now these are sets. So that tail goes with that one. So I'm going to keep those in sets. That one goes with that. And that one goes with that. So I'm doing one of each of the styles. That one goes with that. Oh, we haven't done that tail either. No, it doesn't. That's that one, and this one. So we shall keep those like that. So now we want to draw a line down our head, and that is indicated on the pattern. Put a piece of double-sided tape running down the inside of the line. Now you never have to use double-sided tape, obviously. You can find another way of doing this, and I'm going to put very small nicks, just about 1/8 of an inch, all the way along. Now you don't want to put them to your tape, just like that. Because what we're going to do now is take that off and fold that to meet the line. And you're wanting it to be a nice even curve. So I come back a couple, bend that over like that, and make sure each of those little notches that you cut come evenly to the line, like so. And in doing that, you get a nice curve. Again, I'm going to put a bit of double-sided tape, show you some over the top, like that. So we want these to be the same size. So if it lines up with the back there and lines up with the front and around the edge, that's going to be right there. So attach that to the tape, and we'll do that with all the others as well. So as you can see, I have trimmed this one off. Now I've just trimmed the seam allowance that we have folded because this vinyl is quite thick and I don't want to be having a really thick edge along here, and I don't mind the raw edge on this white. So as you can see, I've just trimmed it halfway through the line. Now we also want our fins in these. Keep in mind where you place them is going to be, the bottom is going to be turned under, like that. Sliding it in about 3mm because you want to catch it when you go. Now the pattern has you baste this, but when I'm batch sewing I try to do things as quickly as possible. So now we want to sew along the edge of each of those. And we're given the distance in the pattern. Like that. We'll put our tails aside for now. And we want to get our bases. So we want to lie our base right side together along the bottom and sew down there at the allotted seam allowance. Like that. Then we're going to open that out and top stitch it along the bottom on this side. Now when I'm batch sewing, I much prefer to chain them. It saves thread and it also saves you having to go to find stuff. Now we're going to take our equivalent, lie them right sides together on the other side and do the same down this side. And again, go back and top stitch them all that way. So there is all our bodies. Now we want to get our zips. Decide which zip you want with which. Mark the centres. Line your zip up at the top. So our zip is right side together, like that. Now you can double side this if you want. And I'm going to baste around there. But first, I shall clip that in place and split my zip. And we're going to baste around those, and we'll do the same with the others. So now we want to take our lining. Now these should now be the same size as our lining. So we want to put our lining right side together and line up around the edge. Now if you've done your center marks, they should all line up. Again, you can take this in place if you want. Now what we just want to be careful of is that our zip does not come back up, that it stays lying down. Line that edge up as well. And now we want to sew down either side of those at a full seam allowance rather than basting it. Like that, and we'll repeat on all of them. So there is all our fishies. So what we want to do now is I'm going to take a pair of spanking shears and just trim the very top. Now I'm not going to trim much because I don't want to cut too much of my zip. This will just help you get a nicer turn around the edge. Now rather than doing this, you can just cut little nicks into it. You don't have to trim the whole way around. As you can see, I'm hardly cutting anything off those. It's just more the lining and to line it up. So now the fun part, we want to push all these through one end. And get your hands in there and push it all out. Now if you want to, these are dull obviously on the end, you can push something like that in there and just give that a good pressure out. So now what we want to do is top stitch around the edges, down here along there, so that the whole thing is completely enclosed. So if you've used fabric you can iron, it's quite nice to give that a bit of an iron. I think that's pretty cute. So that's one down. So that is my 6 fronts. So now we want to take our zipper pulls. Make sure that your zipper edges line up before you do it, because you don't want to be having it on crooked. From the front. Okay, so that is them all together. Now you make sure that your zip is definitely on the front, or going from the front, so that it's closing towards the back. So now we just want to push our ends in, make sure that's all out flat. And we're going to sew across those ends. And we are given that seam allowance in the pattern. Trim your zip off and give it a good melt. And do that on all your ends. So the only thing left to do now is our binding on these ends. So I'm just going to take my piece of waterproof canvas, fold it over the end like that, and sew down there. So it's up to you. You can sew it this way and turn it over, or you can just sew it on the end. Run your scissors down the very edge of that, and that is your bound edge. One finished. So that is them all done. Simply open them up, put your fingers in the corner like that, push it through, there's our little Bartolo. Isn't he the cutest? So you can put a bit of pressure on that, just get your finger in there and give it a really good push out. So these are such a great scrap buster, and you can do any combination of fabric. Quite like that bit of fleece in there, it just gives it a really nice structure. So it's just the really thinnest fleece, it's about 3mm. So there's our 6. So what we need to do now is get our tails and line them up. So because we're doing one of each, we want to make sure we've got the right ones. So that is going with that one. Now because I've used little D-rings and these have got a little ring on it, I'm simply going to open that jump ring like that, put our tail on and close the jump ring like that. So if you're doing it to the pattern, you would have a little jump ring in there, and you would just put that on there, and then that's riveted through on the pattern because it's made with much more sturdy fabric than what I've got. And they are our Bartolos. Aren't they the cutest? All lined inside. So I will burn my edges. I think they are so cute. And if you wanted to, you could also reverse that and put that on both sides, which I think would be super cute. And you can put your logo tag on the back. So let me know in the comments what you think. So as you can see, all the fins are different. So this is the whole set from the pattern. So you can make whichever you want. I think they are so cute. Very, very cute.